ABC Listen. Podcasts, radio, news, music and more.
Hi News Daily listeners, I'm Erin Park and I wanted to share with you my new podcast, Expanse, Nowhere Man. If you've ever considered a digital detox, just how far would you really go to disconnect? This season of the Expanse podcast is about a young American who in 1999 set off alone into one of Australia's biggest, deadliest deserts. And what happened out in that desert made everyone involved think about life and death and who we are when everything easy is stripped away. Subscribe to Expanse, Nowhere Man, on the ABC Listen app and all the usual places.
After spending hundreds of millions of dollars to help put Donald Trump in the White House, Elon Musk is launching his own political party. Musk says his America Party will challenge the status quo that he believes is bankrupting the United States. Today, political scientist Geoff Kabaservice from the Niskanen Center on what the party could stand for and who might vote for it. I'm Sydney Peed on Gadigal Land in Sydney. This is ABC News Daily. Geoff, Elon Musk did a poll on his platform X and 65% voted yes to create the America Party. He says it's formed to give you back your freedom. So there you have it, Geoff. Easy as that.
Yes, with Elon Musk, he only has to will it, and it exists. So people who followed the Trump-Musk drama will know that they fell out rather violently a few weeks ago and were slinging insults at each other on social media.
The president, who reportedly plans to sell the red Tesla he bought in a show of support for Elon Musk, has now described his former first buddy as a man who's lost his mind.
But that Musk had actually been quiet for a bit, probably on the advice of his boards of directors. But then on the 4th of July, America's Independence Day, he came out with this proposal that there be a third party, which presumably he would fund with great generosity. And this would be a major change to the American political system. And the ex-voters voted, and they said by a 2-1 margin they wanted him to go forward, so he has vowed that he will.
And this is a new direction for Musk's foray into politics. Back in May, he exited the Trump administration after spearheading the cost-cutting Department of Government Efficiency, DOGE. The wheels did start to come off a little when Musk began to criticise Trump's spending plan, Trump's big, beautiful bill. Can you tell me about that?
Yes, well, before it had that label, Musk had actually called the bill a disgusting abomination. And in fact, it is quite a profligate spending bill for a Republican Party that still likes to think of itself as the guardian of the fisc. It will add at least $3 trillion to the deficit. And this at a time, of course, when interest rates are really reasonably high. And this actually will not have a good impact on the American economy or the situation for businesses. However, the budget bill is also notable in the sense that it's in some way a very un-Trumpian piece of legislation. It actually makes savage cuts to government spending programs that actually do support quite a lot of voters in Trump's base, relatively poor working-class voters. So this actually has real potential to split the party, and maybe that's the subtext to Elon Musk's proposal to start a third party and also punish Republican legislators who voted for this bill.
Yes, well, there was plenty of shots fired between Trump and Musk over this bill. Even at one stage, Trump was musing on the possibility of deporting Elon Musk, which is extraordinary.
Yes. I mean, Trump says a lot of things that perhaps he doesn't necessarily mean, but he certainly does have a bit of a handle from which to jerk Elon Musk around because Musk's companies get quite a lot of government subsidies, and Trump has mused about taking those away. Something about the overall incoherence of Musk's political position, I think, is revealed in the fact that he is, after all, the head of Tesla, and most buyers of electric vehicles are actually Democrats. Trump's one big beautiful bill actually makes savage cuts to anything resembling green energy. So he actually has a very credible threat to do away with government subsidy of Musk's companies.
Okay, so in the wake of this fallout, Elon Musk announces on X that he's going to start a new political party. Donald Trump is not happy about this. He says it's ridiculous, and Musk has gone completely off the rails since departing the White House.
I think it's ridiculous to start a third party. We have a tremendous success with the Republican Party. The Democrats have lost their way, but it's always been a two-party system. And I think starting a third party just adds to confusion. It really seems to have been developed for two parties. Third parties have never worked. So he can have fun with it, but I think it's ridiculous.
Let's take a look now at the America Party. Musk claims that the US currently has a uni-party system and that the Republicans and the Democrats are in essence the same. So what is his alternative? We know he wants to slash debt. What else would this party stand for?
So, I think most Americans would find the idea that the Republicans and Democrats right now at this moment are the same to be bonkers. They're probably farther apart than they've been in decades. However, Musk is probably correct that neither the Republicans nor the Democrats have much credibility when it comes to balancing budgets. I actually believe that we now spend more on the interest on the debt in any one given fiscal year than we do on all of our national defense spending. So it actually is a very serious problem, and he's not wrong to want to address it. But the problem is, of course, that Musk is all over the map in some sense in terms of his own politics. He's alienated Democrats because of the Doge actions that he undertook to really attack and undermine government. And he also holds a lot of positions that Democrats don't like. He's actually a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment to bear arms, for example, which is less popular now than it's ever been, perhaps, in the Democratic Party. But on the other hand, his war with Trump has shown that he's alienated a large segment of MAGA's party as well, and they're not fiscal conservatives at heart, most of his populist supporters. So it's not quite clear what Elon's proposed constituency for this new American party might be.
Well, just on that, what about his potential voters? He's very polarizing. Do you think he attracts people who are attracted to his celebrity, or is it his political ideology that's attractive?
It's a good question about what accounts for Musk's popularity and how that might translate into electoral terms. I mean, it's often said that the new currency in America when it comes to elections is attention, and he's certainly shown that he can get quite a lot of it. But on the other hand, really, he is actually even less popular right now in most polls than Donald Trump himself. So it's not quite clear what he has in mind with this venture.
And you mentioned Trump's MAGA base just before. How much of that Make America Great Again voter base would Musk be able to bring along, do you think, to the America Party?
Well, now we get into some trickiness here. In Washington, D.C., you can actually run into a lot of libertarians, and I would generally put Musk in the libertarian camp. But as it happens, only about 4% of the American electorate would answer to that description. Most Republicans are fiscally and socially conservative. Most Democrats are fiscally and socially liberal. But there would be perhaps some possibility to wean away some part of the MAGA base. And of course, third parties tend to run on anti-establishment energies. So again, possible that Musk could be that kind of anti-establishment figure who might attract some kind of electoral support.
There are already a number of other minor political parties in the US. The Libertarian Party is the third biggest, and there's also the Greens, which is smaller still, but they're not overly popular. So far, none have managed to break that two-party dominance in the US, right?
It's very difficult for people not in the United States, not familiar with our political system, to understand how dominant the two-party system is. Sometimes it makes sense to call it a duopoly. And in fact, the last third party to actually succeed in becoming a major party was the Republican Party itself, back in the 1850s. There are just many, many ways in which the American system is set up to systematically disadvantage third parties and prevent them from breaking through to major party status.
Okay. But as we know, Musk has seemingly bottomless pockets. So is his ability to bankroll this venture, would that change the game for him?
Well, probably not, to be honest. Because, it's actually often crossed the minds of various rich people that there ought to be a third party, preferably helmed by themselves, to bring wisdom and rationality to the American political system. Donald Trump himself actually flirted with this idea back in 2000 when he sought the nomination of the Reform Party. But actually Trump had a much better perception of the American system by 2016 when he realized that far better than starting a non-viable third party would be to actually take over one of the two existing parties, which he did to great effect. It is possible that Musk could actually choose to make a big political impact through some other vehicle than the one he's talking about right now. The elections that really matter in this country at the level of Congress are primary elections, which are typically closed to only members of either the Republican or the Democratic Party. They tend to be very low turnout elections in which some amount of money in advertising could have a significant impact. And if Musk really wanted to punish the Republicans who had voted for Trump's one big beautiful bill, he would fund primary challengers within the Republican Party itself. But what he said is he actually wants to create this third party that would challenge both Republicans and Democrats, and that's a much bigger reach.
Much more ambitious. Musk did post that part of his strategy would be to laser focus on just 2 or 3 Senate seats and 8 to 10 House districts. So if he was able to do that, what kind of impact could that have on the two major parties?
I think the key word that you just used there was if. I mean, this is a pipe dream that goes back a long way. The idea being that in a very narrowly divided Congress, all you have to do is get a handful of bipartisan centrist legislators, and they can form a bloc who can act as kingmakers in deciding whether to accept or reject any particular legislation. But the chances are very good that it'll come to nothing, even with somebody with as deep pockets as Elon Musk behind it.
Okay. And Elon Musk, of course, was not born in the US, so he could never be president, right? But could the America Party run a candidate for president in 2028?
Anything's possible. But the very last presidential third-party candidate to win any electoral college votes, which again, you can't win the election without those, was George Wallace, running with the American Independent Party in 1968. I think he got 46 electoral votes, something like 13.5% of the popular vote. They can make some impact, but I don't think that's what Elon Musk has in mind with his grand plans for a third party.
If a third-party candidate doesn't win, can they still swing the vote there away from those two major parties?
What third-party candidates for president who are the most successful can do is cast doubt on the perceived legitimacy of the winner. But I think more than that, the third-party candidate, if it's successful enough, can indicate a degree of dissatisfaction on the part of a significant segment of the population with the establishment of both parties, with the absence of issues that are perceived to be very important for at least some segment of the population. And that can in turn impact the politics of the two established parties.
Well, it is easy to be a bit dubious about Musk's moves, but overall, is competition in politics a good thing for the system? Good for democracy? Good for voters? What do you think?
If you ask voters, poll after poll for at least the last 25 years has determined that a majority of them do want, or say they want, a viable third party. And typically they feel that the two parties are too extreme. However, when they're actually given a chance to vote for third-party candidates, they typically don't. But, I remember from my historical training that Richard Hofstadter, the historian, said in 1955 that third parties are like bees. Once they have stung, they die. And I think what he was getting at was that sometimes there can be significant issues that aren't addressed by either of the two major parties. And in 1992, when Ross Perot was running for the presidency, he was running against the debt and deficit, somewhat along the lines of what Musk says he would like his third party to do. And he got 20% of the vote, which is not nothing. And that actually did very much impact the direction of Bill Clinton's presidency, because Clinton concentrated much more on balancing the budget and reinventing government than perhaps he would have if not for that kind of populist stimulus. So it's possible that Musk's project could actually bear some political fruit. It just wouldn't accrue directly to his political party.
Lastly, how bad do you think this could be for Donald Trump? Because to have Musk drawing not only attention away, but money, we know he spent more than $250 million helping Trump get into the White House in 2024. How big a difference could this make to the Republicans?
I don't think the Republican strategists that I know are taking this threat by Musk all that seriously at this point. If he were to actually shift his strategy toward mounting primary challenges in Republican districts, then they would take him very seriously indeed. But just the idea of a sort of third party defined by Elon Musk, hostile to Donald Trump, but also hostile to the Democrats. I don't think there's much of a fear on that account. And most Republican strategists that I know also are basically counting on Elon Musk dropping this once there's sufficient opposition from his boards. When Elon Musk made his announcement, the response of the markets was to actually drop Tesla stock by 7%. And Tesla stock overall is down 40% from its peak in December. So, Musk has a lot of money, but the people he answers to on the boards of his company don't want him to keep losing money indefinitely. And I think that's definitely what they fear would emerge from this kind of political adventure.
Geoff Kabaservice is a political scientist from the Niskanen Center, a centre-right think tank based in Washington, D.C. This episode was produced by Cara Jensen-McKinnon, audio production by Sam Dunn. Our supervising producer is David Cody. I'm Sydney Peed. ABC News Daily will be back again tomorrow. Thanks for listening.